In fact, I'd be willing to bet if I asked you, Mr. Lincoln, how many of your cabinet, when you were inaugurated, inaugurated March 4th, 1861. I was inaugurated February 18th, 1861. The Confederacy began before your presidency. And technically, James Buchanan was still president. And John Breckinridge, eventually our Secretary of War, was going to be in the South. Most of these people went with their homelands, their state. That's why, I mean, that's hard to understand. Maybe if you were born in...
When you became a state, what did you have to do to become a state?
You had to have so many, you had to have so much population, right? And you had to agree to come into the Union.
And who had to agree to let you in?
We can do it if we let us in.
You didn't just ask to come in. All the other states had to ratify you coming in.
That's right. And they did.
And they did. And what percentage of them had to ratify?
At least 60%.
That was 2/3.
Yes.
2/3 had to ratify.
Right.
So to get into this organization, and when you came in, you expected them to defend you, to help you with the finances, help you with, in other words, as a unit, to stand against Great Britain and any other country that would come against us. So when you decide to leave that, what you would promise you would do, how can you, in the middle of the ball game, take the ball and go run off?
We didn't see it that way.
I can tell that.
We did not see it that way. And,
Was it
you know what my opinion, is a majority rule with me. I hate majority rule.
Okay.
That's nothing more than
Then
democracy. And we are a democracy.
Then you should have taken territory. You should have been on your own. And when England came over, you wanted to take over, you should have taken care of your own. You shouldn't have joined in with everybody else.
Well, that's just the way it works.
Well, then why did you?
Well, then why did Virginia, North Carolina, Arkansas, Tennessee join the Confederacy after the fire on Fort Sumter? What was their reason? In your opinion?
I believe they were following the leader. And
No, because-
poor leadership.
Mr. Lincoln, you blockaded your own country, and according to us Southern people, you're going to invade your own country. To those people in Virginia, they were not going to allow an army to march through their state to, how are you going to force the states to come back into the Union? What was the armies going to do? My question to you.
When I came to office,
you only called them up for 90 days and you thought you were going to whip us Southern people in 90 days?
when you were in the Union and participated, when I gave my inaugural speech, I said, we will not be the aggressor.
You weren't.
So when you were aggressive and took away a national fort that belonged to all of us and took it over, what did you expect would happen? We would just back them up and let you take all the forts?
Well, let's ask this
And
question.
when we were trying to restore it or to not fortify it, but we were sending food to them. And we notified you that all we're doing is going to feed them. We're not going to any ammunition or whatever. All you had to do is let us so that they wouldn't starve and sit down and talk. And you didn't.
We did not.
Why not?
Because I'm only the president.
So then, who do you represent then?
Well, represent the Confederate States of America. Hopefully to have 15 Confederate States and not 11.
Then why didn't you, when you were dissatisfied, when I was elected, why didn't you and your representatives come and talk to me? And try, what were the problems that you had, other than you saying, we have the right to leave the Union? What was the problem? What is it you wanted to know? What were you afraid I was going to do? Free your slaves?
Well, a number of people thought that the government was probably trying to do that.
And all the speeches I given, when Buchanan was in charge and I was not, I was asked and asked to give views on things, to read what I said. It's there. Everyone can read it. It's been in the paper saying, no, what I believe. I believe that we cannot expand slavery.
That was the Republican platform.
That was my views.
That was the Republican platform.
It's still my views because I was their leader.
Okay, and what were you trying to do to us? Who was paying most of the tariffs? Mr. Lincoln? Where was most of the income coming from the United States coming from? It wasn't,
Who determines the tariffs?
Yeah, who does?
Legislature.
Okay.
Did you have these people in the House and the Senate?
No, we did not.
Why not?
The thing is, right now, we're discussing why it happened, and I'm telling you that it happened, and who manipulated Fort Sumter? Why did we fire on Fort Sumter?
I don't know.
Why do?
We said
we felt like you manipulated us into firing on us. Now all these other forts surrendered. Why didn't you deal with them? Why did you only want to deal with Sumter? What about all the other forts?
Because I was not president then. Fort Sumter was the first fort that fell after I became president. In my inaugural address, I indicated that the forts that we had belonged to the country, and that we would not fire on anyone. And you would have to be the aggressor. You just said a few minutes ago that you were the aggressor. So you started it. If you had talked to me as to my views on slavery,
well,
I visited slave states, and I believe that we have
a lot of what ifs, but we also have a certain amount of time that we need to be sharing. So I guess my next question to you, I think we've kicked this in the ground enough to say what happened, is my question to you were you an abolitionist?
Absolutely not.
Explain it. Explain it to them.
Why I wasn't?
Yeah.
Because as an abolitionist, when I was in Congress, I didn't believe it was the right way to go. Mrs. Lincoln thought it was the right way to go. She was an abolitionist. The problem is, if you free all the slaves, where are they going to go? Because you won't hire them to work for you. They're going to run away from you because they're afraid of you. So they'll come up north and they'll look for a job up north. And whose job are they going to take? They're going to take your job, or your son's job, or your uncle's job, and they'll have no one place to stay.
And Mr. Lincoln, you know as well as I do, because in your debates with Stephen Douglas, it came up. The whole word equality. Did you see the Negro as equal to the white man when you were elected president, or even before that? What were your views on that?
I believe the Constitution said that all people should be created equal.
No, it doesn't. That's the Declaration of Independence.
Declaration of Independence. And that is the basis of our Constitution.
But really, you say that, But how did your cabinet feel? How did your cabinet feel when you said, well, what should we do about something? Did all of them agree? Yes. We're going to defend something. Did any of them ever say, let them go?
It was divided.
Divided? 50-50? You mean to tell me, you're telling me that your cabinet said, let them go. So if
some of the cabinet said let him go, others said no, we should defend it to the end.
And who were the ones that said let them go?
The ones that felt that they should go, were they? Could not tell you at this point.
So you're saying to me that 50% of your cabinet said, let them go.
I did not say 50%.
You
Some
said,
of them did, some did not. Even if it had been 100% one way or the other, they gave me advice.
What
I
was
took their
Zoar's
advice. And my decision
What was
was to
Zoar's
send them
what were Zoar's
provisions and not ammunition or anything that would indicate that we were going to
You
fight.
know, I spent many months in his town in Alder, New York, when I took my tour of New England. And I'm asking you, what was Zoar's view? Did he totally agree with you, or did he say let him go? Because he almost could have had the Republican nomination in 1860, but they gave it to you, by the way, which I think you were also a moderate. How did you get the nomination from Seward? Front runner. Had ambition to be president. How did you get that nomination?
Because I debated the man that you wanted to be president, Stephen Douglas. And because of
That was in
that,
1858.
that's exactly right. When they came to listen to what he had to say, he was wanting to be the future president. And I said, they wrote down what I said also, not expecting what they really wanted. But I said that anyone that grows a crop by the sweat of their brow should benefit from that exercise. And what I said was, the slave works and should benefit from what he gets, what he works for, what he grows, the crops that he he grows. And on the plantation, they were not treated that way.
Well, Mr. Lincoln, we do have a problem. And if the Republican platform didn't say extending slavery, it would probably have died out anyway.
I agree. So if you hadn't left the Union,
Well,
and we had talked about the situation,
and what about you calling out 75,000 volunteers to invade your own country?
what would you expect me to do?
What
You
did
took
I-
a treasonous act when you left the Union, correct?
Well, I don't see it as treason.
It wasn't supportive.
Well, you see George Washington, you said, you probably say George Washington was my favorite president. He was my favorite president, even though I didn't believe that he would do that dollar coin across the Rappahannock. I tried, I only got halfway, so there's no way he could have. Yes, I remember George Washington, not to be silly, but you see him as a traitor against the crown.
Yes.
So they should have been hanged?
If we had lost the Revolutionary War, he would have not only been hung,
Hang, that's the proper term. You put clothes out on the clothesline, that's hung. When you put a noose around a man's neck, that's hang. At that 9 months of schooling, probably didn't teach you that.
he would have been hung or shot.
Hang. So you think Washington, and especially Jefferson, who wrote the Declaration of Independence, even Jefferson said as a slave owner, maybe I should recite that for most of you to remember, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Yet he was a slave owner, and I was named after him. And according to his election of 1800, which my mother's here with me when she was younger, Jefferson had an affair with his wife, dead wife's half-sister. I believe her name was Sally. It's very hard to explain, Mr. Lincoln, but all I can say is I'm going to side with my state. You can make all your accusations you want. I'm going to side with my state, and I would never evidently that you would have sided with your state if you went from Kentucky. I was born in Kentucky, you were born in Kentucky. If you went south, you might think like I do, and if I went north, I might think like you do. That's all there is. I mean, we can debate it forever, but it still comes down to this word. Was secession legal or was it illegal? And who made it illegal? You? Did the court system make it illegal?
Did they make it legal?
No, they didn't make it legal. So the thing is, if it isn't illegal or legal, you do it. And it's up to the Supreme Court to decide and interpret the laws.
So if you had not filed on Fort Sumter, my premise is that we would have sat down and talked about what the problem is.
Mr. Lincoln.
If it's on taxes, why didn't you, with Buchanan being a Democrat, and I believe it was a Democratic Congress, why didn't you send your equal representation to them? Because you had the same number of senators as did the northern states. Because that's the reason we didn't have secession earlier.
And we didn't have secession earlier because the former vice president of the United States named John C. Calhoun, who was only first term for Andrew Jackson. Jackson said, I'll lead an army down there and you're not going to succeed. It all came down to the nullification. Whether or not a federal law should override a state law.
It can. Because we all as states agreed to come together and abide by that law. And the reason you have the same number of senators as the North did is so that we would not take advantage of you and vice versa. The only time that changed is when 1850, when we had one more free state than you did.
That's right.
And
from then on, all those states came into the Union because of the Compromise of 1850. Well, no, the Kansas-Nebraska Act of 1850 did away with that line. In other words, I think if we start talking about popular sovereignty, that's probably your favorite two words. Correct?
That's why I ran for the U.S. Senate, or the senator, was my intention was if I were elected to repeal it. Because it's wrong.
So, let me get this understanding. You served 3 terms in the Illinois legislature.
4.
Okay.
Elected 5.
Okay, and you served 1 2-year term in the House of Representatives, and you run for president, and when
I ran for U.S. Senate.
well,
Don't forget that.
Yeah, and you lost.
No. I had 4,000 more votes than Stephen Douglas.
Mr. Lincoln,
But the way it was determined is by the state legislature.
right,
There was a Democratic legislature,
and they didn't want.
and I lost by 12 votes, or by 8 votes, rather.
So let me ask you this question, because we only have a few more minutes left before we don't. Okay. Let me ask you this question, because we need to cover a number of topics. Otherwise, we'll be up here fist fighting.
I will rest if you avoid this whole thing. There's only one
you tell me your interpretation of the Dred Scott decision?
March 5th, 1857, where were you at? You were probably in your hometown.
You know,
I disagree with it, because I felt that if a slave is in a northern state, and I believe it was when his owner passed away, and he was left in